Netherlands, a children's program aiming to promote body positivity is getting a lot of backlash from conservatives because of the fact that it involves adult nudity. Now, I don't want to give too much away. I want to show you a little bit of what this program is all about. Don't worry, we are not going to show you any nudity, but this is all about adults promoting body positivity by getting naked in front of a bunch of kids. And I think I can kind of understand why some people have some pause over that. Let's take a look at the video.
In het programma mogen kinderen van alles vragen aan volwassenen over hun lichaam. En dat terwijl die volwassenen dus helemaal naakt zijn.
Onze prachtige modellen mogen hun badjassen laten vallen.
Ik heb een vraag aan jullie allemaal. Zijn jullie onzeker over een bepaald deel van jullie lichaam? En zo ja, wat?
No, the answer is no. The answer is no. I don't want adults in a room naked in front of children. If you want to do body positivity, do it on a video. I don't feel comfortable with them in front of kids. I'm just keeping it real. I know. I'm an American. I'm so backwards. I'm so conservative. I'm also an American who's covered too many stories about adults doing things that prey on children. I don't want to say anything, like I don't mean that these people are necessarily bad people, okay? I want to be clear about that. I don't think that you need to have naked adults in the same room as these kids in order to make a point about body positivity. That's where I stand on it. Don't at me, go Cenk.
Okay, look, I think it's a really interesting issue because it points out how different the cultures are. Right, and that's just fascinating overall. So in America, we view adults showing their body parts and their genitalia to kids as perverts. We arrest them and we put them on a list. And not only after do they serve a significant amount of prison time, but afterwards they could barely live anywhere, barely get a job anywhere, wind up living under bridges, etc. In the Netherlands, they're showing it on TV. It's not blurred. We blurred it for the American audience. The kids in the room see it, but not only that, they show it on television. Everybody sees it. Full genitalia.
I'm fine with that, by the way. I'm fine with that. I want to be clear. I don't have a problem with the nudity. I don't have a problem with the children seeing the nudity. I have a problem with adults walking into a room and undressing in front of children. And I know I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm just worried that it's going to attract certain adults who get a kick out of that. That's why I think it's okay if it's, hey, we're doing this, but we're showing kids a video of nudity or you know what I'm saying? Do you get where I'm trying to make my point without being unfair to the adults that were featured in that episode, right? Because I don't know who those adults are and I don't mean to accuse them of anything. I'm just saying that you're opening yourself up to a possible disaster by creating a situation in which live adults walk into a room full of children and then undress. Like I'm not into that.
Yeah, look, for us that grew up in this culture, I partly grew up in Turkey, partly grew up in America, and in neither one of those cultures is adults disrobing in front of kids acceptable. It's hard for us to wrap our heads around it. I remember growing up, there was this cartoon in the adult magazines called Chester the Molester, and he would have a robe or a raincoat. And then he would show kids, right? Or he would show women his genitalia. Here they're doing it on television, but they don't view it as that at all. They're viewing it as educational. This is what a human body looks like, etc. And no one thinks it's the actor's fault or those people that are on stage. The men clearly were not excited. That when you see it unblurred, that's clear, right? And so, but for me, just having grown up in the culture that look. There's a lot of parts of Northern Europe where I think it's too progressive, and I'm considered one of the most progressive people in America, right? I'm considered in Washington at least radical progressive. But when I see Norway debating with serial killers what level of PlayStation they should have, should it be PlayStation 3 or 4? I'm like, are you guys nuts? And you're thinking about letting Breivik out? No, that's too liberal for me. I just can't do it, right? And
well,
in this
look,
case,
in that area. Oh, go ahead, Cenk. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just real simple. I just can't get past the hurdle of right or wrong. Culturally, every part of my identity is screaming, "No, don't do it." Right? It doesn't mean I'm right, but that's just a reaction we have here.
I think we have a poll on this because I'd love for you guys to weigh in, but don't at me as I mentioned earlier. If you disagree with me, I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm just worried. Anyway, here's the poll. So Netherlands, more like nether regions, on a new Dutch kids show called I'm Not Gonna Try That, or Simply Naked. Adults of all body types stripped down in front of children between the ages of 10 and 12 and answer questions about everything from being ashamed of certain body parts to shaving versus waxing. We ask you, would you let your kids watch this? Yes or no? So I'm really curious what you guys have to say about it. tyt.com/polls.
Yeah, look, if my kids see a picture in a book in the right context in a health class, I'm not a conservative. I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, it's a naked body. Naked bodies are perfectly normal. Would I let my kids watch 5 adults disrobe like that on a TV show? No, I'm gonna vote no. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying how I'm going to vote. But I'm with Anna. I mean, we're asking the poll question because I'm super curious what our progressive audience thinks of this. And probably a lot of you will think, don't be ridiculous. It's just a human body. It's not anything to go, to get that prudish over, et cetera. And obviously there's a ton of people in America who would not only vote no, but would probably arrest everyone involved.
Jess Ortega from our members is watching live, obviously, as we do this story. And she shares her opinion saying, you can at me if you have this opinion. Nothing is misconstrued in your messaging, especially the culture we grew up around here in the United States. Everything you said makes total sense, especially with our standard applied. And to be clear, it's not even about our standards. It's just, if you had asked me about this when I was much younger and before we had done so many stories about children being preyed upon in the United States, then I would probably have a different take. And in this take, I think it's unnecessary. You don't need naked adults in the room. You can do the same thing without having, naked adults in the room where children are being taught body positivity. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, look, last thing I'll say is that to show to the other side, to make the case for what the Dutch are doing. The human body is no big deal, and in the West and a lot of other parts of the world too, we're obsessed with covering up the human body. It's certainly true in the Muslim world too. Oh my God, it's so shameful! It's so shameful. No, it's not shameful. Who cares? Yes, I got news for you guys. We're animals. I know you think we're celestial beings and we're so important, we're the center of the universe. No, we're a tiny little speck in the universe. We're an animal like other animals. We just happen to have consciousness. We defecate. We do all these things that other animals do, right? No, I'm just keeping it real. So so in a sense, what they're doing in the Netherlands is demystifying it. And the second defense of what they're doing is, look, evil stuff grows in the darkness. And in a lot of cultures that are more puritanical, including the American culture, we cover everything up. Oh, don't talk about it, don't see it, don't look at it. Oh, the human body is sacrosanct, et cetera. And then what happens in the darkness? Terrible things happen, right? So I don't know what the statistics are in this case. Like, for example, on recidivism, some parts of the Norwegian system instinctually bother me, but they have a much lower rate of recidivism. So they have less crime because of their system. So that's a fact. I don't know what the levels of molestation, et cetera, are in Northern Europe and in particularly in Netherlands versus America. But I bet if you looked it up, they probably have lower rates than we do. And so us having that instinctual reaction doesn't mean we're right. It might mean that their more transparent culture leads to less of the terrible things happening, not more. So that's why I think it's an interesting and hard question.
No, I think I'm 100% right, and everyone else is wrong. I'm just kidding. And that's a great point.
That would be very American.
It would. But that's such a great point.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.